It's cold and it's crisp, but it's bright. It's a beautiful autumn day. And this morning when I looked through the vegetables, I was amazed to see the garlic has sprouted. Let me show you. So this was the experimental bed, and you can see how the garlic is shooting up already. And literally a week ago, that wasn't the case. So it's really started to grow, which is fantastic to see. And thanks to everybody for their sympathies for my cat problem. But it's just one of those things that you have to live with on this plot. And I can see already that we've had a few sort of intrusions on some of this area, but I'll soon be covering this up with compost, so no big deal. And talking about new things that are sprouting up, how about these? Now they're a bit special. And October in the UK is always the month that you tend to get fungi growing, and it's a good sign. It means that there's goodness in the soil, which this is contributing to, which will be fantastic. It's a pretty big day on the allotment today, because it's the day we get to rehome our silkies. The problem that we've faced is the constant wet that the silkies don't really like. And let me just show you their pen. You can see that unfortunately it's quite damp in here now, and another couple of months and this really is not very special for them, and they don't get enough protection in here from the winter rains, because we do get our fair share of bad, or at least wet weather. So girls, what do you feel about a new home? Yeah, not too keen by the looks of it. And Puff is the one that probably suffers the most from the bad weather, because, well, we think she's partially blind and she gets a bit muddy and a bit wet because she can't find her way around. So it's important that she has somewhere dry to live. So we thought long and hard about where we could rehome our silkies, and after a lot of soul searching, this is what we came up with: the polytunnel. And we've had to wait because the temperatures in this area mean that the polytunnel can get fairly warm, but we're at that point now where the cold weather's starting to kick in, and we're going to have the doors open so that if they want to come out they can. But this structure, which I don't tend to use, as you know, during the winter months, is going to serve partially as the silkies' new home. So on the agenda today is clean up the rabbit hutch that they live in and bring it into here. And then I'm just going to prepare the ground for them and move things around so that of the things that are planted in here, they can be, well, sectioned off. And I'm going to have to do that with the fencing that I put around their outside run, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that. So there's not an awful lot in here, but I am keeping the peppers going, and I've put those experimental onions in. I've got a little bits and bobs, some thyme that I want to protect, and the chickens will naturally devour all that and dig it up if I allow them to. So I'm thinking that I'm going to have them in a sort of rectangle here, and they'll be able to get out through this main door, and then probably have a bit of a run outside, which I'm going to use the netting for. I'm not sure whether I'm going to go all the way down there yet. And as a bedding, I'm going to use some bedding that we've put into their run before now, which is a horse sort of dust-free shavings, and I'm going to put that all along here so that they've got a decent surface that's absorbing. To be honest, it doesn't matter with the membrane whether there's any mess, we can soon clear that up, but I'm pleased that at least they'll have a place that's absolutely windproof and rainproof during the winter months if needs be. So I guess the next step is to get a bit cleared out here where the rabbit hutch is coming out in the shed. I'm going to put my pots and my trays and things so that it just makes a little bit more space. So plenty to get on with. Let's get the decks clear. Well, this netting has been absolutely fantastic, and of course it's designed as a sports netting, but it really serves the purpose well if you're trying to keep hens in, at least smaller hens. I guess larger ones could try and hop over it, but we have had the bigger hens in here and it didn't seem to be the case that they wanted to jump out. So I think what we're going to do is just deconstruct this whole area and then reconstruct it in and around the polytunnel. So I'm going to take each one of these out, and I think these spikes will just go through the membrane, which won't be a problem because it sort of self-heals when you pull it out. So we'll be using those, and I'll work my way around and disassemble this, which will open up the whole of the fruit area, which will be quite interesting. And I'll be able to get in here and get the weed and the nettles out in due course. So shouldn't take me too long. I'll put it on fast forward for you. Well, I've got to say that was incredibly easy. Normally when you work with netting like this, it can be a real pain catching on everything and difficult to get apart, but this sports netting, which you can see the provider of it in one of my earlier videos, is absolutely superb. It's just like goal netting, and it comes apart from these stakes so easily. Fantastic stuff, and of course adaptable, because now we're going to try and make a new run somewhere else, i.e. in the polytunnel. So I'm going to gather all these up. Mrs. K is doing a bit of clearing, and hopefully we're going to incorporate a bit of a dust bath for them in the bed, and they do love a dust bath, as you've seen, so hopefully they'll enjoy it. So I didn't film that. I'm sure most of you will relate to that, you know, that moment when, well, it's a bit like putting up a tent with your partner, or the couple that puts the awning on the side of the caravan. It generates a little bit of friction sometimes. So in the interest of keeping this video, well, acceptable, I thought we probably would cut that bit out of it and then just show you the finished product. But the good news is that Mrs. K and I are still talking, and she's gone home to make some lunch, and we're both coming back together to get on with the job. So good times. Right, I'll show you around. Okay, so this is the entrance, and this net is going to go all the way along to this post here. So that means that this door will have to go the right way, but will allow access in. And then there'll be a small amount of grass there and just this little area outside for them. Now ultimately there's enough net for me to go a bit further, but in the interest of getting the job done, we're going to keep it like that for now. And the temperatures here are just like a warm summer's day in the polytunnel, so it'll get colder, but I don't think it's going to get a lot hotter. But this gives us the option to keep the doors open, and this post will come over here so that this door can open and close at will. And then inside the polytunnel, it's basically netted all the way round. The only reason I netted round is because it's one long piece of net, and it's the only way we could figure out making it work. I suppose this might stop them from thinking that this grass is edible and trying to peck the plastic. It'll remain to be seen. If I do think they're going out and trying to do that, then we'll have to bring that fencing in. We've got to go and get the rabbit hutch, and we'll put it in here, and then all the rest of the crops that are being kept through the winter will be safe in the bed. And we've just put this little bit of area here so that they can get in and scratch, and they do like to dust bath, so I think they'll enjoy that. So that's the plan. I guess the next step is just to lay the shavings down and get the coop over, and that's going to be after lunch. It's in. We've renamed ourselves Peckfords, and for all of those that are not UK based, that's a famous removal company in the UK, and we thought Peckfords sounded a bit appropriate. Right, next step is to get this bedding down, and hopefully then we'll be pretty close to allowing the silkies into their new home. And we've got plans for what to do with their feeding and watering. I'll show you that in a minute. In the meantime, it's time to get this bedding on the floor and see how far it goes. As I say, this is bedding that's used for stables, and it's going to make a bit of a mess, and it will probably require quite a clean up at the end of the year. And I anticipate that we'll be Peckfords again probably in March, when temperatures start to rise and we don't want the silky hens getting too warm. In the meantime, they'll be cozy and dry. Oh, right, let's get this out. We've got a little step here, so hopefully they can use that to get in to the dust bath, and a step up into their home. And I don't think they'll go out the back. Let's just move this around. And the good thing about using this wood chip is that if any of it gets on the bed or anything like that, well, it's only an organic product, so it'll be fine. There we are, looking pretty cool. Now, before we let them into their bed and we set up a layer of shavings over the bottom of the coop, we're going to put this Diatomaceous Earth in, and this is a natural product that makes sure that there's no bugs that can harm the chickens. But you have to be a bit careful with it. The dust is very fine and you don't want to breathe it in. So I always get this job, not Mrs. K. So I'll give it a good spread around, and then the bedding will go on top of that. That'll do. So this bedding is much finer and again dust free, and we just put that on the bottom. Looks like we're into the next bag. So when it comes to the water, I'm going to hang it off of one of these crop bars, and I'm going to use some wire because you get a fair old weight of water in these feeders and I don't want it coming down. So that's looped over there, and we want this just to hang just above the chippings. So just need to get something to cut this with. I reckon about that. There we are, just so that they can get in it easy enough, but it can take some decent weight. And then for filling it, I have to fill it on the ground and then lift it slightly and slot it in. And it shouldn't leak because it should be able to remain just perfectly level like that. Okay, the next one is a treat. Same theory, and this time I think we'll have it about there. And I'm going to hang this cabbage upside down, and I'm sure they'll get a great deal of pleasure out of pecking at it over the next few weeks. Right. Okay, I think we'll keep it reasonably high, about there I reckon. Okay, water and hanging food. Now for their grain and pellets. Same theory with this, just hang it high enough that it's not in and amongst the chippings. And I can hang this one on string because there's not a great deal of weight to it. A couple of knots. That'll do nicely. Right, let's just see the practicalities of doing the water like this. And then the other thing I've got to do is put some bedding into the top of the coop with a bit of hay, because they do like to go upstairs to lay their eggs. There we go. That seemed to work well. And I'll put this into the top, and then a bit of hay on top of that. Ready-made nest. I think we're nearly done. Now, silky hens don't get up too high, but they do like to stand on a stump. So I'm just going to put that in, and they can get up on there if they want. And then an old mirror. It's amazing how vain chickens are. They do like to look at themselves. I think we're there. Well, that's all from this episode of Changing Rooms. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. And if you did, then why not like and subscribe? And if you want to get my updates every Sunday and every Wednesday at 8 p.m, then click on the bell. Hope you enjoyed today. Good times.